Welcome to Cinema Gulp. I'm Ben.
And I'm John.
And today we're giving you a gulp review of Thor Ragnarok. The almighty god of thunder, Thor, is back. Finally catching up with him after almost 3 years since his last on-screen presence in The Avengers: Age of Ultron. After 2 somewhat forgettable outings in the MCU, Thor Ragnarok comes as a complete welcome blast of cinematic orgasm. Chris Hemsworth returns in his best performance as the character to date. Not only is he gigantic, intimidating, heroic, and charming, he also gives possibly the best comedic performance out of any actor so far in the MCU. All praise Taika Waititi for finally giving us a Thor movie we all wanted. Popping straight off the pages, Thor Ragnarok is colorful, witty, entertaining, and all-out hysterical. Ragnarok is one of the best Marvel movies, hands down, and no question, the best Thor movie. So John, let's talk about Thor Ragnarok.
This movie is just so much fun, like in big capital letters, F-U-N. This movie is just so much fun. Best time I've had at the theater this year in terms of just entertainment value. I was just with a smile on my face the whole time, laughing my ass off. This movie starts right off with hilarious scenes and exciting scenes. I think the action does work better in this movie than it has in the past Thor movies.
It's way more dynamic. It's way more colorful. My problem with Asgard up to this point is it always felt like a set piece to me. It was always very small. Like, was it a planet or was it just a little village like on Oz? It always just felt very small. And moving away from Asgard and moving towards almost a Guardians of the Galaxy style premise, it made it was an actual Thor adventure instead of, sort of the Shakespearean mopiness of the second one and the fish out of water stuff of the first one.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
This one gave Hemsworth the ability to be the character and to kind of address how silly the character is. That's what I like about this one. They finally said, okay, fuck it. He's a goofy character.
This'll send you back to hell, you ugly troll!
Let's let him be goofy, and Hemsworth was more than capable of handling that.
Yeah, I really think he's the standout comedic performance in the movie. I mean, everyone in this movie is funny. Yeah. Every single character has a chance to be funny. I mean, even Odin's character is funny at times. Chris Hemsworth really did stand out, I think, as the funniest character in the movie. And as you pointed out, they really finally took the character there and said, he's goofy, he's silly, let's play with that, let's run with that.
Yeah.
And obviously this director was the perfect choice to create that kind of comedic element in this film. I think his comedic sensibility is really unique. I think we said that in the Hunt for the Wilder People review, that he just the way that he's brought comedy to his films and also heart at the same time and able to kind of balance both of those perfectly.
What We Do in the Shadows is amazing, but it's a mockumentary. You really don't know what the filmmaker's made of yet, because you can do a good mockumentary and then not be able to do a narrative structured feature film too. And Thor Ragnarok, like I said, one of the best MCU movies in my opinion, definitely the funniest. I don't care how much they try to push how funny Tony Stark is and how funny Guardians of the Galaxy is. This is the funniest MCU movie. This is the funniest movie of the year. And that's not to say the movie doesn't have stakes. It does have stakes, and it has serious moments, but not at the expense of not being fun. The movie wants to be fun first, and that's exactly what it is. It's fun. It's a real comic book movie,
Yeah, but it stands out to be a comedy more than it is an action movie. And I find that interesting that the MCU in the last 3 films have basically made comedies more than they have made action adventure films. And all the characters, I love Taika Waititi brings back a lot of his regulars that we've seen in some of his past films, and those were a great surprise and joy to see. And then other actors that show up in this movie that I wasn't really aware, like Carl Urban and things like that. Jeff Goldblum is just so funny and just playing the perfect Jeff Goldblum character that
he sure
grown
is.
to love. But I just think the casting and the way everyone was used, every single character was funny and interesting and pops off the screen, and no one is forgettable. It was just such a great job in terms of casting and writing and just bringing the laughs to this movie.
In this movie, to me, it stands on its own as part of the Thor trilogy, I guess you want to. I think there's going to be an asterisk on this one because, yes, it stays with the narrative and the continuity to an extent of the other Thor films, and it addresses the Avengers and stuff like that. But to me, it's almost its own origin story. he's finally someone different than he was at the beginning. And the other Thor movies, he's really not. And you're kind of led to believe certain things in the first film that in this one kind of come full circle, and they actually backtrack a little bit, and you find out that there's different purposes for things. And I like the writing in that, because you needed to go somewhere different with Thor. He's been a big lughead who depends on a big hammer up until this point, and now he's this fleshed out guy, and you know who he is and how much he means to the MCU now.
Yeah, and they do a good job of playing with that persona in the movie, of him kind of being known as the big lughead. He makes some jokes when he's talking with the Hulk about that, and there's some really funny moments with him trying to turn on the Quinjet or whatever, and kind of playing on his persona in those scenes.
That was a good joke.
Yeah, every joke lands in this movie, in my opinion.
Much.
I don't think there was a single joke that I didn't laugh out loud uproariously while watching this movie.
On any other world, I'd be like millions of years old, but here on Sakaar, in any case,
I do feel there was some kind of moments that go away from the humor, specifically when we're dealing with, is it Helena or Helen? I forget what.
Hela.
Which is Cate Blanchett's character. She's the main villain of the film.
Yeah. Tessa Thompson.
Tessa Thompson
crushed it in this movie.
She was awesome. She was
awesome.
funny. As we've said, everybody is really funny. But that's kind of really the storyline we're following and most interested in. And then you occasionally have to go back to what's the home planet called? Asgard, and catch up with,
as Jeff Goldblum would say, ass something.
The ass planet.
ass place, Asperg.
Asgard.
The movie loses a little bit of steam there.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a lot of exposition just to kind of explain what this Ragnarok is. And that being the title, that's actually kind of secondary to what the most interesting part of this movie is. All the trash planet and Hulk and all that stuff. That's the more interesting side of this film.
I almost think it could have been called Thor Beyond Asgard or something, because you're right. Ragnarok is very secondary. This movie plays it as a very small element. Obviously, it comes into play more towards the end, but I think that there's several different villains in this film. I love Jeff Goldblum's sort of presence as, I mean, he's all for comic relief, 100%, but he's good, and he does pose as somewhat of the sort of overpowering villain to an extent for a portion. And then you also have Serta, who all the comic book fans should know who Serta is. Serta's a big Avengers foe, and Serta looks really cool. He's in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything.
Is this the demon character?
Yeah, this is the demon character who...
Straight out of Mordor?
CGI in the Marvel movies, they've kind of just said, okay, don't spend too much, don't break barriers and create all kinds of new world-changing technologies, just get the job done. And I think the set design and the colors that Waititi used are awesome. The Hulk looks great. They put the money in the Hulk, though I do feel a lot of the Hulk's jokes as Hulk kind of sucked. I wasn't really into that.
To be honest, if there was anybody's character, he was still really funny, but if there's anybody's character who didn't sell every joke, it was the Hulk or Banner's character. But there was still a lot of humor.
was overdoing it when he became Ruffalo.
Yeah.
And then he was just kind of
Yeah, same. Hulk like fire.
Hulk has gone through way more iterations because he went with that awful Ang Lee Strange movie. And then you have
it was earlier CGI, and he looked like a big gumball or something.
He did he looked like those germ boogers.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He looked like
a big mucus.
Yeah, he looked like a big mucus ball. Even the Edward Norton one, they tried to use a lot of dark colors to kind of disguise the fact that the CGI was still a little wonky. It was a little tighter, a little better rendered than the Ang Lee one because it was 5 years later. But you see that significant bright difference when you see the Ruffalo one finally in the Avengers, and it's like, wow, that is amazing. And I think it's gotten better looking, but him talking and being kind of a realized alter ego now, I don't know how I felt about it. Tessa Thompson was written really well, and she acted really well. In the trailers, I'm not really sure if they're playing her as a love interest or whatever. And then when you see that she's her own character, she almost belongs straight into Guardians of the Galaxy with her kind of personality and the fact that she's kind of a drunken lush, which is really funny.
But you can definitely see how the worlds are colliding. I think they did a really good, you pointed out, they did a really good job with this film, bringing in a lot of the elements of other MCU films or somewhat kind of showing us directions that the MCU is going to go, without making it so shoehorned. I felt like a lot of these
Yeah.
little moments were organic, especially the way they brought in previous jokes or previous moments from earlier Thor films. I think they did a really good job of the continuation of the Thor storyline in this particular film, but making it more creative, more interesting, giving it a stronger plot that you can actually care about and follow, making it an actual adventure that you're following along and not just kind of waiting for the next action scene to happen in between some fish out of water scenes.
Hulk like raging fire, Thor like smoldering fire.
Where Thor Ragnarok sort of sits in the MCU, to you, did it take away anything as far as Thor's storyline moving forward and eventually meeting back up with the gang? He always kind of felt like the outsider of the gang anyway. In that little short that they put together that Taika Waititi did.
You know, it's a nice flat, as you can see, and we get along well. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to be around average, everyday people. Daryl is an average sort of everyday guy.
Where does this fit good, or does it feel like a standalone? Because I feel it's both. It fits as a standalone, but it also, because it's a very good swashbuckling, Flash Gordon-ish type of movie, but it also, to me, it gave just enough nods to like let us know that everything else is still going on, and that eventually we're gonna see them all.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that it works as a standalone movie, 100%, but it has a lot of connection to the MCU. So
it didn't just tie itself right in; it gave itself its own beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, but it also answered a lot of questions, as you brought up, like where has Thor gone? Where has the Hulk gone? We knew that those answers were coming in this film, but they did a good job with that. They did a good job of making those connections and making them feel organic.
Yeah.
And I think where it fits in the MCU, I mean, it's one of my favorite MCU movies. I obviously want to see it again. The MCU's been around since 2008 now. I think this is their 17th film, so there's a lot of movies to kind of mull over of what your favorites are in that mix. But the first two Thor films were kind of at the bottom of the list always.
Definitely for me.
And this one's at the top, so it really separates itself, at least from the Thor films, big time. But from the rest of the MCU, I'd place it in the top 3 to 4.
Perfect comic book movie. It only took 17 films for them to get Thor right. Chris Hemsworth is awesome. Kate Blanchett is awesome. The Loki guy is awesome. Tessa Thompson is awesome.
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum is awesome. He is so Goldblum in this movie. I give it 8.75 gulps for me.
Oh, for me, I'm going to put it up there. I can't go all the way to 8, I think, but I'm going to put it at 7.5.
Okay, everybody, that was our Gulp review for Thor Ragnarok. So excited to finally do this one. Been looking forward to seeing this movie all year. As always, if you like this review, please click like and or subscribe to Cinema Gulp today. You can leave some comments down in the comment section below. Where can they find us, John?
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. Look under Cinema Gulp.
Until next time, this is Ben.
And this is John.
We drink your cinema.
I drink it up!
My niggas know what it's like when shit getting hard. My niggas stay pulling you other niggas' cars. My